So today we will see AMA sampling for different frequency moments, and in particular we will also see F2 estimation. So that's the plan for the day, and so let's just get started. Please feel free to ask questions, answers in between. Okay, so our string will, as always, consist of some E1 to En. These are the tokens which are integer in 1 to n. And what is the frequency? Frequency is basically number of occurrences of number I in the string. Okay, and we are interested in considering the vector f, f1 to fn. And for k greater than or equal to 0, the kth frequency moment is nothing but summation fi to the power k. And we can also consider Lk norm of f, which is basically 1 by kth power of this. Okay. So for example, when n equal to 5 and string is 4241145, and our objective is to estimate fk from string using small memory. Okay. So this is the, as I told you, this is the problem which Alon, Matthias, and Szegedi considered in AMS 1998 paper, right? So today we will see their main algorithm of the paper. We already saw one example from that paper, which was the what do you call F1, F0, like number of distinct items. Okay. Okay. So rather than considering, at least in the first half of our lecture today, we will not consider just the frequency moment, but we'll consider a function g, which is a function of frequency. Okay. So for example, g rho is a function which is a additive function of gi fi, where each gi is a real function, real valued function, such that gi equal to 0 is 0 for 0. That's all that we require. Okay. For example, your function could be g rho could be equal to summation I equal to 1 to 7 fi square plus summation say I equal to 8 to n fi 5 or something. Okay. And what is our right? So like I could have such functions also. I mean, why do we care about such function is not important, but in several situations, you would like to not only consider a frequency moment, but you would like to consider some other real valued function which of the stream which you would like to compute. Okay, but how do we write what is that called? Frequency moment in this terminology. So to write frequency moment in this terminology, let's set hx equal to xk, right? If this is a function we are right, then what is fk rho? Okay, what is fk of rho? We are interested in as a frequency moment is fi to the power k. So in the language of new language, I will write g rho is nothing but summation I equal to 1 to n h of fi, right? So you could do very well many of these things in terms of g. So is the function g clear? So the only thing which we are demanding that for each ith frequency moment frequency, the function gi should take value 0 for the domain 0. Okay. Okay. So okay.
Sorry, can g have negative values?
Yes. Okay. Can g have negative value? I think yes, but let's keep that question in mind for a minute, and let's see at least if the estimator value changes based on that. Am I right? Okay. So for now, answer is yes. Okay. But we'll see if we encounter, like I have not thought about it to be very honest, but as far as I see, there is no issue with it. But if we will see I'll tell you where it might come difficulty. But for now, let's believe that G could be a negative function. Like G could take non-negative numbers also. Okay? Is that fine? Okay. So as I told you, so frequency moment Fk is where each Gi Fi is HFi, where Hx equal to Xk. There's also a notion of entropy of a stream. It is slightly different than this, but I mean, it is very much similar. Like Fi, there is some minus here, but forget for now. So it is Fi log Fi, and we assume that 0 log 0 is equal to 0. Okay? Okay. Okay, so now let's go to AMS sampling. So what is AMS sampling doing? Okay, so we will first create an unbiased statistical estimator for 0. Okay, so what does this unbiased statistical estimator for 0 does? It samples EJ uniformly at random from stream of length m. Okay, and suppose EJ is I, where I is in 1 to n, then it fixes R equal to all those index, okay, which is between J to M, and EJ is same as whatever index you have chosen, and then it outputs M times GI of R minus GI of R minus 1. So just to get on the same picture, let's do one example. So suppose we had 1, 3, 1, 10, 5, 1, 10, 5, 5, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3. So if you count 3, 3, 6, 3, okay. So the number of items in the stream is 13. Okay. So now tell me index uniformly at random. Your favorite index. Anybody? So for example, if my index is say 4, then what I'm going to output? So I'm going to see how many number of times 10 occurs this side. Okay, so this will be here G10, 13 times G10, and how many times 10 occurs? Twice. So G10 of 2 minus G10 of 2 minus 1, 1, for example. Okay, so for example, if you would have chosen 1, 2, 3, 4, J equal to 7, then what it will become? It will become 13 times, how many times 10 occurs after this? Okay, so it only occurs 1, so it will be G10 of 1 minus G10 of 0. Okay, okay. So for example, but suppose I mean, yeah. So this is how you you define this function. This is what you output. So what are you outputting? So you first choose an index from 1 to m uniformly at random. Okay. Then you look at, okay, so that and then you multiply that number, like then you look at how many times that element occurs, including that place to the end, and that minus this. Am I right? So this is what we are happening. So just for another example, let's just say if J would have been equal to 1. So if J would have been equal to 1, then it would have been 13 G 1, because that's 1. How many times 1 occurs after this? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and minus G1 of 3. Okay. So is the idea of the algorithm clear? Right? So so we choose one of the index uniformly at random from the stream of length m, and suppose that that number is I. Then you look at the remaining stream and you count the frequency of occurrence of that element starting from that index to the end, and you output gi of that function minus gi of r minus 1 times m. Okay. Okay. So I hope this example makes it really clear. So the next question is, can we implement in streaming setting with reservoir sampling, right? Because look, we cannot, so this was an uniformly at random from stream of length m, but like it is fine when we are not doing in streaming setting that you look at all the elements and you do this, but in streaming setting, numbers are coming one by one, you have no idea about what m is, but you still have to do this, okay? So that is where we will use the idea of reservoir sampling to implement this algorithm in the streaming setting. So how does the algorithm look like? So this is my algorithm, okay? So what I do, so this is, what is this storing us? This stores us what is my current S, okay? What is my current guest item, okay? Okay, and M is the total number of items seen so far. And R is basically, it will count once you have decided that this is the element which is what I have guessed. Then R counts the number of occurrences of that particular. So R basically counts occurrences of S. Okay, occurrences of S after we have decided the index. After we have decided the index. Okay, so while stream is not empty, what you do, M is M plus 1. And suppose AM is a current item, you toss a biased coin that is head with probability 1 over M. Okay, if coins turns up head, what is the point now? You need to, now you have decided that, well, so if you remember reservoir sampling, what was happening in the reservoir sampling? You had a you were keeping one token at any point of time. At any point of time, if new item came, you replaced it with probability 1 over M, and you did not replace it with probability 1 minus 1 over M. So if I decide that, okay, well, my uniformly random index is not what was before, but it is the one which has come now, then I have to reset everything. So then what I do, I make SAM the current item, I reset R as 1, and if this does not happen, then I check, is the current item equal to what I have stored before? If yes, then R is R plus 1. And then at the end, look, I'm counting M anyway. So whatever M is there and whatever S is there and whatever R is there, I will output those things. Okay. So is the algorithm clear at least? Right. So this is the step where we are doing reservoir sampling. Okay. So with probability 1 by M, I decide that my current index is the index which is uniformly at random, or okay, if that happens, then with probability 1 over M, I replace my current item, reset everything, and start counting the number of occurrences of the current element from that to the end of the stream. Okay, and this is what is happening. Okay, any question? Okay, so maybe let's do one example maybe. Do we need to do an example? Okay, I already did an example. So let's get to. So I want to claim that let y be the output of the algorithm. Okay, then expectation of y. Let me just come. I think people are just maybe. Hello. Yeah. So let's try. So there are like very clever way of doing this, but let me tell you a non-clever way of looking at this. Okay. So suppose I have sequence. Uh, let's call it W1, W2, W3, Wm. Okay. Now what you know? Okay. Suppose let's say that W3, W7, W11, and Wm are same element. All these four are same element. Say they are 7. Okay? Okay. First of all, let's try to understand that, look, what is the probability? Look, so what is Y? Y is an output M gi of R minus gi of R minus 1, right? And so, or gs of R, depending on what we are storing. Okay. Okay, where S is something which is chosen uniformly at random. So now, which element S becomes, S could be equal to W1, could be equal to W2, could be equal to W3, could be equal to Wm, and what is the probability of that being equal? Is 1 over m. Okay, so now let's focus on these elements. Okay, just for now. Suppose they occur 4 times. What is the meaning of they occur 4 times? So suppose if I had picked up W3, then what will be the value of Y? It will be 1 by m times G. What is the value of this? 7 times, how many times does it occur? 1, 2, 3, 4. So G7 of 4 minus, sorry, and there's also another.
Why have you taken 1 by m?
Meaning?
No, now you rubbed it. It's okay.
No, I will have 1 by m. Right? Look, so what is, so wait, let me explain to you. Okay. So suppose if I look at the third guy, what is the value of this? It is going to be m G7 by 4 minus G7 of 3. Okay. Now, this is one potential value. So my Y takes lots of potential values. Like, so for example, it could have, suppose W1 would have been, say, 3. So then it will take m G3 number of times 3 occurs minus G3 number of times this 3 occurs. Okay. Now, but these are the possible values Y could take. But what is an expectation of Y? Probability of this happening times the values it takes. So probability that it will take W1 is 1 over m. Probability that it will take W2 is also 1 over m. So this is why I'm multiplying with Y. So if I compute expectation of Y, the value, the possible values of Y and the probability that it takes that particular value. Am I right? Right? So each of these values are like, each of these values are equally likely with probability 1 over m. Okay? But what I wanted to notice is that there's something interesting happening here. Now, if I look at the second 7 here, what I will write? I will again write m J7, but how many times now it occurs? 3 times minus G7 2 times. Great. Okay, what about the last second terms? Well, again, it occurs G7 3 times minus G7 1 time. Great. If I look at the last occurrence of this is m G7 of 3, sorry, 3, 2, this should be 2, 1, 1 minus G7 of 0, right? Now, each of them has m, okay? So if you notice, everything will get cancelled, except the first term and the last term, okay? So for each 1 to n, what is remaining? The remaining terms are first term and the last term. Okay. So what is it? But what was 4? It was a frequency of 7. This is what it was. right? Number of times. So basically, I could rewrite this whole sum as follows. I should not have rubbed it. Let's see if I can. Okay. So this is nothing but Fi. Okay. So let's add a page. Okay. And let me do it. I find this way of doing slightly easier. So I did it that way, but let's see. So what we can say, so whatever may be, I can partition my sum. I can partition my sum I going from 1 to n, right? I going from 1 to n, okay? And so I'm just partitioning my sum, okay? And for each of them, I'm going to write summation gi, okay, right? And how many times I occurs, frequency time. So it is going to be j equal to 1 to frequency of I, right? So this is going to be summation I will going to 1. And what is this going to be equal to? First time, let's say, so let's count from the behind. So count, if you count from the behind, then it will be G, it will be, okay, I will, okay, it will be what? Gi of j minus gi of j minus 1 times m. And as I told you, each of these items happens with probability 1 over m. So, so I have to multiply each of these terms with probability 1 over m. Okay. Now what happens because of this? Because of this, now this m and this m will get cancelled. And what will we get now? We will get now is summation I going from 1 to n, summation j equal to 1 to fi. But as I told you, it's a telescopic series, right? So everything will get cancelled except 0th term and the first term and the last term. So I can rewrite this term as nothing but gi of its frequency minus gi of 0, right? But what did we assume about 0? So for any function, vi of 0 is 0, which means this is summation I going from 1 to n gi fi. Okay? Any question? So question for you, Piotr. Did we use anywhere that this is a non-negative number, non-negative function?
No.
Right? So it means that this estimator, at least, this unbiased estimator works also for, even if my G takes, what do you call, negative numbers. Okay, so this is, I didn't think about it, but now that you asked this question, so let's just make that as a remark. Okay, unbiased estimator works also for G that takes non-negative real numbers. Okay. Okay, so this is one way of doing this. So this is very simple way of computing this, okay, there is also a compact way of doing it by conditional probability, which is there in the slide, but I will not do that. Okay, it's basically, okay, so what did you choose? Oh, you chose this and things of this nature. So there is another way of doing this also, which is slightly more compact, but it just boils down to the same thing. But I found this much more cleaner and easier because you see everything happening in a nicer and cleaner way. Okay, so is there any question that why whatever we did is an unbiased estimator? Okay, Okay. 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 So now I'm going to apply application to estimating frequency moments. Okay. So, I mean, while the expectation analysis works for any G with those properties, the analysis whether y, so we know that we have an unbiased estimator, so expectation wise it is good, but it could be that the variance is very bad. What I mean by variance is very bad, that it can take probability that it takes the expected value could be very far off from, or it takes expected value with very small probability. Okay. But what we are going to do, so it depends on the particular application. But now I'm going to do only frequency moment calculations for estimating what you call estimating frequency moment. So now I'm going to assume the GIX is equal to x power k for each I. Okay, and I want to compute how far is variance from expectation. Okay. And now notice that for a frequency moment, my GI function is all positive, unlike before. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, okay, I'm going to show to you that when Gx equal to x power k, variance of y is k times f1 f2 k minus 1 and this sum. Okay. Now let's start to make some let's make some remark here. Okay, in a very general context. So suppose you have so what did we know? We know that expectation of y is fk because we proved it for every g, right? But what is the variance showing us? Once we have proved this, but is upper bounded by k times n1 minus 1 by k fk square. Okay, so let's notice one thing. Now we should be getting used to it. So whenever you see that a variance is square of expectation, it is great news for you. Okay, I will explain to you why. But or some order of expectation whole square, then it is a great news for you. But we have a lot of other terms, okay, and that will make matter difficult for us as we go up. Okay, why? So now let's see what is the definition of Chebyshev inequality. Chebyshev inequality tells you that probability that x minus expectation of x is greater than k times rho. What is your rho? If you recall, rho was your standard deviation. Okay, is less than equal to 1 over k square. So this is what we know. Why? Or in other way, you could have said, or you could have written this as a variance of x divided by k rho whole square. Okay, so and what is rho square is nothing but variance of x. So they get cancelled, and what you get is 1 over k square. Now notice, why did I say that? If my fk square was, so fk square is of correct magnitude, right? Because variance of y has this fk square. So what is my expectation of x? So in our word, it will be probability y minus fk times k times fk, right? So suppose this is, okay, in our thing, it will be what? It will be k times square root of, say, n1 minus 1 by k and fk, right? And so notice that this is very bad here, right? It will be like k times n1 minus 1 over k, right? This is what k square times. So what do we expect from Chebyshev inequality? We wanted Chebyshev inequality to give us a constant probability of success. We want a constant probability of success for a constant factor approximation. Now, if I wanted to get a constant factor approximation, how many estimates do I need? Like, remember our averaging principle. What did we do? We computed several estimates. Okay, we computed several estimates, right? And then returned the average. What happens if you have h? If you use h, then it reduces the variance by 1 over h. So to make my variance constant, I will have to use how many? So I will have to use roughly kn 1 minus 1 by k number of estimates. And it means I will need to use that many number of space, that much number of times log n number of bits of space to do this. So whenever, if you notice that variance is like of order expectation whole square, then that's a great news for you, because then you can apply Chebyshev and so, or in other words, think, what does variance say? How much do I vary from my mean, right? So if I vary of the order expectation is squared, so standard deviation is like expectation. So with, like, if I'm just looking for a constant factor approximation, then that's a great news for me, because Chebyshev will jump in and it will tell me that, oh, you're not too far away from your expectation, like constant time approximation, and that's great for you, right? But to get even closer to epsilon, we needed to apply several number of estimates, take its average, and that is where 1 over epsilon squared kicked in. Okay, so in other words, all I wanted to tell you that here for a normal, it's like, if we are, so for example, even for k equal to 2, what did this tells us? It looks like that we will use 2 root n space, right? 2 root n log n space. That's like kind of, you know, lower bound that comes from here. So this is while we had a very beautiful or very nice estimator but the variance of that estimator is not very good. So in streaming algorithm, not only you have to find an estimator which is unbiased or close to unbiased, but whose variance is also close to expectation square, if we wish to get one of like best results in this direction. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So this is what I was trying to explain to you before, is that hence if we want to use averaging and Chebyshev, we need to average these many parallel runs and a space to get 1 plus epsilon estimate to fk with constant probability, right? So if we are just looking for a constant probability, then we will need to do this many things. Okay. So the take-home message is that if variance is like delta times expectation of y whole square, then you need roughly delta times log n space. I mean, that we do not know how to get rid of. So that's the bottom line of whatever I was trying to describe. Okay. Any question? Anybody, any question? Okay, so this is a general theme, which is, or a general thing, which, okay. So in that sense, this is a very, very bad, even if we prove everything, what will it give us for even for F2? It will give us like, look, and if we wanted to get an epsilon delta, we will have to do the first averaging trick and then median trick. And median trick cost us order log 1 over delta, and average trick cost us 1 over epsilon square times delta. So the overall even for F2, we will have order 1 over epsilon square log 1 over delta times root n, which is good. I mean, in the sense that it is sublinear, but it is not polylog space. Okay, but we'll get to that towards the end of our lecture. Okay, so let's just see how we go about proving this. So before that, let me tell you some inequality which I found quite interesting. This is called generalized mean or power mean with power mean inequality. So you have P, if P is a non-zero real number and x1, xn are positive real numbers, then the generalized mean or power mean with exponent P of these positive real numbers, it basically you take pth power of these, sum them up 1 by n and then 1 by p. Okay. For example, and what is known is that if p is less than or equal to q, right? Like the power p is less than or equal to q, then pth mean is less than or equal to qth mean or something. Okay. And the way we will use it is like, so for all k greater than or equal to 1, okay, now I have substituted for all p equal to 1, that this is what our left hand inequality is. And since k is greater than or equal to 1, so m1 x1 to xn is less than or equal to mk x1 to xn, 1 by n summation I equal to ni xi equal to 1 by k. And if you notice, this is very, let me, what is m0? What is m0? M0 is nothing but, okay, so basically people define as limit p tends to 0. What is mp x1 to xn as p tends to 0, right? This is nothing but, if you notice, this is nth power of x1 to xn, and this is nothing but geometric mean, right? And what is m1 of x1 to xn is basically summation x1 to xn. This is arithmetic mean, okay, and so on and so forth. So like, so this does capture a lot of interesting things. Please have a look at Wikipedia to have a look. Okay, so now how are we going to do variance calculation? Okay, so to do a variance calculation, I mean, it is very similar to whatever we did for base. So it is very similar to whatever we did for, so let me write it down, okay? So this is going to be summation 1 over m, right? Because any of the terms, but notice one thing is that, okay, so let me, okay, so I'm just going to first understand what is my variance of y square, okay, and then we'll worry about all these things, okay. So I can write it down. Let's see, this is exactly what I wrote before also. I is 1 to n, okay, and probability that the random element chosen is equal to I, okay, and summation L going from 1 to frequency of I, okay. Now look, so I'm conditioning on the fact that I have chosen Aj equal to I, okay. I'm conditioning on the fact that I have chosen Aj equal to I. Now what is it, now that you have chosen Aj equal to I, now look at the different occurrences of I. All of them have an equal opportunity to be chosen. So that will become 1 over fi. And now, hey, if y takes m times something, y square is going to take m square times that. So it is going to be m square times Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k, yeah, m square, it's not easy, okay, square whole square, okay. So this is what we need. And what is the probability that Aj equal to I? Is basically Fi times m. You could also do the way exactly what I did before, and you will get the same result. But let me do it this way, just, okay. So what will we get now? We will get m square by Fi. And now let me write down this as Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k, Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k. Okay. And notice that I can take m square by Fi outside here, and everything will get cancelled, but an m will come out, and summation I going from 1 to n, summation L equal to 1 to Fi, and Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k, Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k. Now, I want to replace this with something different, okay? So, notice what is the formula for AK minus BK, where let's say A is greater than B, which is greater than 0, is nothing but A minus B, AK minus 1 plus AK minus 2 times B plus AK minus 3 times B square, so on and so forth, BK minus 1, right? Which is nothing but less than equal to A minus B. And what can I write? Because look, B is less than A, so I can write down this K times A to K minus 1. Right? So this is what I will substitute this term with. Okay. Now that implies that this is, I'm sorry, but this is what we have to do. At some point of time, I will give up. But maybe for a little bit more, L equal to 1 to Fi, K times L, K minus 1.
Okay, can you please explain the previous line? So how you remove m out of the brackets?
You mean here?
Here where? So when you move m, so the third line.
Yeah, here, right? Look, so m square by Fi can come out because this is common to all this summation term.
Yes.
Right? So Fi will get cancelled and m is left on the top. But this m is to every summation, right? So I can also take that out as a common.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but it is just a mess. Okay, but we have to do this mess. Okay. Okay. So k times Lk minus 1, Lk minus L minus 1 to the power k. Okay. This is alone for you. Okay. All clever things. So now notice I can also take k out. Mk summation I going from 1 to n, summation L going from 1 to Fi. What is left is Lk minus 1. It took me last night some time to get here. Okay. Now there is some fun going on here. Okay. So what is the fun going on here? I'm going to rewrite. Actually this happens with equality. Okay. Mk summation I going from 1 to n, and I'm going to rewrite this term slightly. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to like merge. So if you take the first term, multiply this, then this gives you 2 terms, right? And then it gives you 3, 4. So I will leave the first term, second and third term, what do you call? Yeah, I will merge. You will see in a minute what I wish to say. What is the last term here? Last term is like of fi. It's going to be fi k minus 1 f power k, if you notice. Okay. So let's write that separately. So fi k minus 1 fi k, I have written it separately. But for the next terms, I'm going to write, so this is summation. Okay. Summation L going from 1 to fi minus 1, okay, L k minus 1, Lk minus L plus 1 to the power k minus 1 times Lk. Okay, so what I have done, so if you notice what I've done is, let me just give you an example. So if you written the first term, what would have been this? So if you write the first term, let's use some different color. So what if I write the first term, what will I get? I will get 1 k minus 1, 1 to the power k, minus 1 k minus 1, 1 k, 0k, plus now becomes L becomes 2. So 2k minus 1, 2k minus 1, 2k minus 1, 1k. Let's write down on one more term, then we will see the pattern. 3 k minus 1, 3k, 3k minus 1, 2k. So what am I doing? I am trying to gather say this term I'm trying to gather this term with this term. Okay, this term with this term, and next term. So now notice, why am I doing this? Because if you notice here, L power k is common. Lk minus 1 minus L plus 1 to the power k minus 1. So each of this term is less than equal to 0. Right? So what happens is that each term here is less than equal to 0. So what you get after that? So then you get less than equal to mk summation I going from 1 to n fi k minus 1 fi k, but which is equal to mk summation I going from 1 to n. And what is this? Fi 2k minus 1, right? But this is exactly what we were hoping, right? So this is the term where we reached, okay? And so you get km f2k minus 1. But what is m? M is nothing but summation of frequency. So I can write it as f1 times f2k minus 1, okay? And y does, so what is the variance of y? So variance of y is equal to expectation of y squared minus expectation of y whole square. And this is positive quantity, so I can just write down this. Okay, this is anyway subtracting something. Okay, so is there any question? Okay, otherwise you can go and look back. This is nothing but just computation. Okay, but that is not all. What is our job? Our job is, so all we were able to show in this inequality is that variance of y, okay, is the variance of y is k times f1 times f2k minus 1. But what is our goal? Our goal is to connect expectation of y, which is fk, and with fk square, right? Like, what is my variance of y in terms of, like, I want to write some f something times fk square, right? And this is what this does, right? So if I can show this, that f1 f2 k minus 1 is at most n to the power 1 minus 1 by k fk whole square, then it gives me a relation between, like, what do you call, or it expresses my variance in terms of expectation of y whole square. Okay, so that's my goal. And how do we go about proving this? So let's prove this. Okay, so first, let m be max of 1 less than equal to I less than equal to fi. So m is a maximum frequency. Okay, then what can I say? M power k is less than equal to summation I equal to 1 to n mi to the power fi to the power k. Is this correct? Do you believe this? Because look, I mean, it is summation of all fi, including the m. So sure. Okay. And okay, so this is something to keep in mind. Okay. Now, what are we interested in? Summation I equal to 1 to n fi times summation I equal to 1 to n fi 2k minus 1. This is what we are interested in. Okay. This I can write it down as less than equal to summation I equal to 1 to n fi. But here, what I'm going to do is, look, I know that there is some fik minus 1 also, but fik minus 1 will be less than m to the power k minus 1. So I can upper bound this by m to the power k minus 1 summation I going from 1 to n fi k. Agreed? Is there any question here? Okay. Now, this is less than equal to summation I equal to 1 to n fi. Okay. Now, what does this equation tells us? Let's look at this equation. This I can write it down as m. I take what you call mk is this. Let's take I can write down 1 by kth of this. I can write it down that this power, see, this is less than equal to summation I equal to 1 to n fi to the power k minus 1 to the power k. Okay. Right? So now, why am I doing this? Because now I'm going to substitute m to the power k minus 1 with this quantity. So now what am I substituting m to the power k? Summation going from I equal to 1 to n fi to the power k minus 1 divided by k summation I equal to 1 to n mi to the power k. Oh, why am I writing mi? Okay, sorry. In my notebook, I have written. Okay. Now, let's see what is this. This is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n fi. But what is this equal to? Summation I going from 1 to n fi to the power k 2k minus 1 divided by k. I just sum them up. right? Because this to the power is 1. So 1 plus k minus 1 by k is 2k minus 1 divided by k. Any question? Okay. Now, for this, I want to use that geometric series which I showed you. So what was that? What was that inequality? So now I want to use this inequality as on this. Okay. So what is this? So I want to say summation if I going from 1 to n to the power n. Remember, this is less than equal to what was this? So if I recall correctly, let me show you the slides again. Right? This is what it was. Like 1 by n summation I equal to n by xi is whole to the power 1 by k for any k greater than or equal to 1. Am I right? So I just want to use that okay. So what will be this? So this I can write it down as summation fi to the power k to the power divided by n to the power k, right? Sorry, I mean, there's a child in the room. Okay, is this correct? Okay, now I would like to substitute this value from here. So what will this be? Summation I equal to 1 to n fi is less than equal to n times I think it was 1 over k, sorry. Okay, it was 1 over k, right? So what did this will be? Summation fi k to the power 1 over k to the power n over 1 to the k, and I hope now you are seeing the pattern. I equal to 1 to n fi k 2k minus 1 by k. Okay, so this is what this is what I will substitute here. So if I substitute this here, what will I get here? I will get, if you notice, I will get n 1 minus 1 by k. So this is less than equal to n 1 minus 1 over k, which is what we were looking for. And what are we getting? We are getting summation fi k to the power 1 over k times summation I equal to 1 to n fi k 2k minus 1 over k. Okay. Now, what is this? This is equal to n 1 minus 1 by k summation I equal to 1 to n fi 2k by 2k will get cancelled, k cancelled, so square minus 1 by k plus 1 by k, so this is whole square. So what did we get? We get n 1 minus 1 over k and times fk whole square. Okay, great. Okay, so this is what we will get. Okay, is that fine? Okay, I mean, you can also use some, like you could have proved whatever I wrote here as a convexity, but I just use that inequality. Okay, so this is what we are able to get, that f1 to f2k minus 1 is this. Now, so what does AMS estimator shows that fk can be estimated in order n to the power 1 minus 1 by k space. Of course, I should write, if we are interested in epsilon delta, then the right answer should be k times n1 minus 1 by k times 1 over epsilon square log 1 over delta, right? Because we have to do all those averaging trick. So this is averaging trick, and this is median trick. By the way, both of this trick also comes from the AMS paper. It's not. But now the question is, can one do better? And here is a very amazing answer. For k between 1 to k, one can do in polylog in space. But for k greater than 2, you can do slightly better, like n to the power 1 minus 2 by k and some polylog n, which is known to be essentially tight. Right? So you can slightly make 1 by k to 2 by k, but not much better than this. Okay? So this is essentially tight. Okay? So what did we see? The bottom line is that we will see a phase transition at k equal to 2. Okay? And the course will also take a phase transition at k equal to 2, because from estimates we'll go to sketches in a minute, and that will be a phase transition, because that will lead to many more, that will connect to Johnson-Lindstrom lemma and all other things. Okay? So what I would like to tell you that, but this was for any fixed k, if you notice, we were able to get frequency moment as something which is sublinear in scale, sublinear space, and it was only very late that people proved that this is tight and got slightly better algorithm. Okay, in 2000s, and lots of research has happened over all these kind of things, like a bit different, not only frequency, but as Piotr pointed out, what happens if we have negative numbers? What happens if we have to do L2 norm or LP norm and things? What happens if the norms are not positive integer, but any real number? Can we do something? So lots of work has happened on these kind of things, and we will look at some of these things in the time to come. But I think it's a good time to take a break before we go to F2 estimation, which will take us another 15-20 minutes. So I think we will take a shift in perspective at this point of time, and we will see a very interesting algorithm for k equal to 2. Okay, and so what I would like to do now is just the F2 estimate. So what is our question? We would like to estimate F1 square in small space. And if we use generic AMS sampling scheme, then we can do this in root n log n space. And the question is, can we do it better? Okay. This scheme is also known as what is called tug of war. It's very amazing. At least I think it's quite amazing, but you might have a different feeling. So this is a very simple scheme for F2. So look, I mean, up until now, we have been only talking about 2-wise independent hash function, but now see, we will have a 4-wise independent hash family. So you pick a function from n to -1 to 1 or 0 to 1, and you can make 0 to -1. And from a 4-wise independent hash family, and z equal to 0, while a string is not empty, what are we doing? Whenever aj is a current item, we are going to add z to z plus haj and output z square. Okay, so just to just to make sure that we understand, let's do an example and run this algorithm. So one example. Okay, so suppose my frequency is 2, 5, 1, 10, 3, 1, 1, 2, 5, 5, 5, so on and so forth. Okay, and let's say h1 equal to 1, h2 equal to say -1, h3 equal to say -1, h4, oh well, we don't have h4, so we don't tell you what h4 is. H5 is +1. Okay, plus 1. We don't have H6, blah, blah, blah. But we do have H10. So say H10 is minus 1. So initially Z equal to 0. Now let's see what happens. When 2 comes, I apply Z. When 2 comes, H2 is what? Okay, minus 1. Okay, so we get minus 1. Then H5 comes. What is the number now? 1. So it becomes 0. 1 comes, we get 1. 10 comes, is minus 1. So again, you just add. So this is the current value of Z. So initially you started with 0, and when 10 comes, you add minus 1. So 1 becomes 0. Okay, fine. 3 comes, we get minus 1. Then 1 comes, I get to 0. Then 1 comes, I get to 1. Then 2 comes, I get to 0. And then eventually I will get what? I have 3, 5, right? So I will get 1, 2, 3. Okay? So we get 3, right? And so what will be returned? So output will be 9. But actually, what is F2 square? Let's see. Okay, let's see. How many times 3 occurs?
Just 1.
1, right? So this will be 3. How many times 2 occurs? 2. So 3 is square, right? No, what am I writing? Sorry, this is my mistake. Okay, what I mean. How many times 1 comes? 3 times, right? So 3 is square. How many times 2 comes? 2 times. So 2 is square, right? How many times 3 comes? Just 1 times, so 1 square. How many times 4 comes? Not at all comes, right? Okay, so how many times 4 comes? 0 times, so 0 square. How many times 5 comes?
4 times.
4 times. So 4 square. How many times 10 comes? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 comes once. So 1 square. So I think this is 31, if I did correctly. 3, 3, 9, 13, 14. Yeah, I think it's 31. So, I mean, see, what?
Not amazing.
Not amazing, right? So if this is going to give us an amazing, if this is going to give us, look, I chose some hash function just very amazing, like maybe it was not a 4-wise independent hash function for all that you know. Okay, but it's not amazing, right? But if this is really going to give us a correct answer, then this is going to be some amazing estimator, right? Okay, great. So let's look at another perspective of these algorithms. So let's forget about space for a moment. Okay, so suppose you, I mean, for like choosing a hash function is just a compact way of keeping several variables together. That's all that it is. Okay, there's nothing more than that it is happening. Okay. Okay, so let's think for a moment that you have n random variables which are 4-wise independent. Okay, and what are you doing at each time? Whenever Z comes, if AJ comes, you look at YAJ and you add that, right? And you output Z square. Okay, and as I told you before, that random like 4-wise independent random variables and picking 4-wise independent hash family, they are the same object actually. Okay, so let's try to work in this world and see why things are the way they are. Okay. Okay. So what is our Z? What is our Z? So notice one thing. How many times you are going to add YAZ to Z? Because in the beginning Z is 0. So if the frequency of element I is Fi, then you are going to multiply Fi with Yi, right? Like Fi times Yi. So What is Z? Z is summation I going from 1 to n fi yi. And what is our output? Output is Z square. Okay. So let's compute what is an expectation of Z square. Okay. What is an expectation of Z square? And we will see that it is actually an unbiased estimator. Okay. So this is summation fi yi whole square, expectation, whole square. Very good. Okay. But what is an expectation of yi square? Is 1. Because either it takes -1 or 1, both it takes with probability half. So half plus half, right? So what does y square takes? Y square takes -1 whole square, 1 whole square, this with probability half, this with probability half. So it takes 1 with probability 1. So expectation of y square is actually 1. Okay. So now, if you write it down, so what we can write it down is expectation of summation fi square I going from 1 to n plus 2 times I less than equal to j less than equal to n less than equal to 1, 2 times fi fj yi yj. Great. Now if I apply linearity of expectation, what is the first term? First term is nothing but what is the first term? So this is nothing but expectation summation I equal to 1 to n fi square. But this is nothing random about it. So this will become whatever we wish to. Okay. But now notice this I can 2 comes out, and because of linearity of expectation, I can write it down summation ij less than equal to n 1, not both here, and I can actually take out I can write it here fi fj. But look, what is expectation of yi into expectation of yj? It's a 4-wise independent random variable. So I can write this as expectation of yi times expectation of yj. Right? I mean it is, if it had been a 2-wise independent random variable, then also I could have written this, but it's a 4-wise independent random variable, so this is perfectly fine. So this is summation I going from 1 to n fi square. Okay. But let's look at any term here. What is expectation of yi? Well, it's 0, right? Because this is what is tug of war. -1 pushes one side, +1 pushes its other side. Because what is expectation of yi? Well, expectation of yy is -1 times half plus 1 times half, which is 0. So each of this term vanishes. So this goes away, this goes away, and this is what is left, which is nothing but f2. So this is indeed an unbiased estimator. Okay, any question? Okay. Now, so, I mean, we have seen it before also that we had an unbiased estimator, expectation of yi is 0, variance of yi, expectation of y square is 1. But now we need to compute variance of z square. This is what we are interested in, computing variance of z square. Like if we can show that the variance of z square is nothing but some constant time expected f2 whole square, then we are in a good shape, right? Because that is what messed us up in the general setting of when we were doing FK estimation. So let's just try to understand what happens with expectation of variance of z square. So to understand variance of z square, what do we need to understand? So this is nothing but expectation of z4 minus expectation of z square whole square, right? And this we know, this we already have computed. So all we need to do is to compute this. Okay. So let's just try to understand. Okay. So this is the earlier proof which we already did. Okay. So what is the variance of z squared? So let's try to write it expectation of z4. Okay. So what I'm going to write it down, rather than writing I, J, K, L, nothing. I'm just going to write it like I'm just going to let it run over everything, because with 4 it becomes very difficult. So you will get Fi, Fj, Fk, Fl, expectation of Yi, Yj, Yk, and Yl. Now let's ask ourselves, what happens if any of these guys, so look, this is where we are going to use 4-wise independent. It means each of these subterm can be written as expectation of Yi times expectation of Yj times expectation of Yk times expectation of Yl. This is where we can write. Now, we know that if any one of them only occurs once, then that expectation is 0 and that term will be 0. So the only terms which will survive when either I will be equal to j and k equal to l, for example, or I equal to j equal to k equal to l, right? So either two terms become squared or all the 4 terms are same and they become 4th power. If any one of them occur just only once, we are dead. And so implies 0 if there's a number among I, J, K, L that occurs only once, otherwise 1. So now let's try to write down our terminology here. So now this is a term which you will get. What is, since expectation of Yi, Yj, Yk, Al, if they are same, then it is going to become Fi4 to the power some expectation of Yi to the power 4. But what is expectation of Yi to the power 4 is 1, right? So you will get this term. Now notice that here, again, it is going to be what is it going to be? So this is going to be, we only have to worry about those terms now that all the 4 terms have been taken care. I have to only worry where these two are distinct, right? So I write I equal to 1 to n, j going from I plus 1 to n, fi square, fj square. Now notice there are like 4, so they could occur among this summation in 4 choose 2 ways, right? So this is why you have this constant 6 sitting here, because in any permutation they can occur, right? And each of them is going to give us fi square, fj square, expectation of yi square times expectation of yj square, but this is 1. So this is what you are going to get as expectation of Z4. Okay. But now let's try to understand what happens as a variance. Okay. So let me walk you through. So this is the formula of expectation. Okay. And we just now computed that what is an expectation of Z4 is exactly equal to, this is F4 plus 6 times this term. So F4 6 times this term. Now, what was expectation of Z squared? F2. So what is F2 whole square is F2 whole square. Okay. Now, what is F2? Right? Let's try to understand what is F2. Okay. That is, okay. Just to, okay. 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 So what is F2 whole square is nothing but expectation Fi square whole square, which is nothing but summation Fi 4 plus 2 times summation I less than j Fi square Fj square, which is same as saying Fi to the power 4 plus 2 times summation I going from 1 to n, summation j going from I plus 1 to n, Fi square Fj square. And this is nothing but F4 plus 2 times summation I going from 1 to n, summation j going from I plus 1 to n, Fi square Fj square, right? So if you notice, this is what is written, replace F2 with. So now what are we getting? F4 and F4 will get cancelled. And what are we getting is 4 times this term, because this is minus 2. Well, but what is, this is definitely less than f2 whole, 2 times f2 whole square, because we just now did, right? This is f4 plus more of this term. So I just took the square of this, right? So it is 2 times, at most 2 times f2 square. Are we good now? Yes, because now we know that the expectation of our z square was f2, and variance of z square is like just upper bounded by 2 f2 square. So variance is just 2 times the expectation whole square. Then we are in a great shape, because now we do not have to, we only have to do 1 over epsilon square times averaging argument to get an 1 plus minus epsilon approximation with constant probability, right? Right? So we can reduce the variance by averaging just 8 over epsilon square independent estimates and let y be the average estimate. So if we apply Chebyshev to average estimate, you can show that probability y minus f2 is greater than epsilon times f2 is less than equal to 1 over 4. And we can reduce the error probability even further to delta by independently doing log 1 by delta estimator ever. So how much space did it take? We kept only one number, that was z, right? So we just kept z, right? We just kept z here, right? And to keep that, all we need is some log n bits, right? And maybe but notice z could have been negative. Notice z could be negative because, like, I mean, it could be negative. Okay, so you might have to remember the sign. Okay, but either way, all we need is log 1 by delta 1 over epsilon square log n bits of space to take care of this. Okay. 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 So now let's. So this estimation algorithm works even when FIs can be negative. What does this mean? Do you understand my point? Like, I mean, we use the fact anywhere in this algorithm that these FIs are positive? Anywhere in this analysis did we use the fact that our object is positive? Well, no. So that points us to a following richer model. So rather than wanting to estimate frequency vector, we would like to estimate a function of vector x in Rn, which is initially assumed to be all zeros vector. Okay. Previously, we were thinking of the frequency vector f. Okay. How would we thinking of previously? It's like, think that you have index 1, 2, n. Each of them is 0. Okay. And suppose some item came, say second item came, then what would we be doing? We were including +1. Again, if that guy came, we would +1. If the fifth item came, we included +1. So you think that you have this vector in your head, which initially starts from all zeros, and as a number comes, you increment that particular index with +1, right? So, but of course, we cannot keep this vector. I mean, without keeping this vector, our objective was to come up with an estimate of fk or whatever norms or something. Now we are going to have a slightly different model, richer model. This is also called turnstile model. Turnstile model. Okay. Now, what is an update? Update is an index comma delta. So now I can tell you that, well, at the fifth position, you please go and increase my number by 10. It's like, think of this, like I'm saying that, okay, 5 comes, 10 copies of 5 comes, okay, whatever that means, okay, in one go, please go and increase. So, or I could also say, go and I and -5 now. Okay, it could be positive or negative. So now I'm saying, look, okay, now I have decided that, okay, I gave you 10 copies, out of which I need 5 copies out. Things of this nature. And so this is a natural model which appears at several places. Of course, it is mathematically rich, but it is also much richer model. And now, what are we trying to estimate then in terms of F2? So if you notice, F2 was summation I going from 1 to n fi square. But in our language now, I mean, let's forget about frequency moment. Now we can think that x in Rn is going to come, okay? And we are making some changes, okay? So in this language, what will be AMS L2 estimate will be? You are again having a 4 by independent. Now AJ is like an coordinate or index and delta J. So what is my change? Okay, fine. I want to update by delta J times Yij, which is this plus minus 1, right? So for example, say my increment could be, say 2, 5, 10, 9, or 1, minus 5, 3, 100, I don't know, like 1, minus 6, right? So now my x bar is going to be some x1, x2, dot, 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 xn, and what we are interested in is something like summation x square, okay? Now, I mean, there's no reason to believe that it will be only 5. It could be like 5.3, or it could be 1.9, or minus 5.7. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. Okay. So this is the model which we will study from now onwards in many cases. So now we will say, okay, this algorithm will hold in turnstile model, or this only holds in update only model, or like where everything is only just updated. There's no deletion. There's only insertion only model, deletion only model. And when we will be talking about graph streams very soon, maybe in 3-4 lectures, we will reach to the graph streams. Then you will see the richness of this model where edges will be allowed to be inserted, edges will be allowed to delete it. So the graph will be dynamically evolving, and we will have to keep certain measures of this dynamically evolving graph or object as we go along. Okay? And the great thing about AMS algorithm is that it actually output estimates x2 square, where x is the vector at end of streams of updates. So if you, I mean, if we do the analysis, I equal to n, xi, yi, and output is z squared, I mean, the same analysis will go through for I not equal to j. And the reason why this goes through is whatever maybe the quantity xi is, all the even moments are positive. Even if it is negative numbers, they are positive. So, well, xi squared, y squared, 2 times this. What is yj? Well, this is still 0. So this will get cancelled. And whatever is left here, because look at y squared, this is still 1, right? So you get L2 norm of this. So expectation of z square is still, even in this setting, right? It is what you wanted. So it is an unbiased estimator in that sense. You can do again a variance analysis, and you can show that this is just twice the expectation of z squared whole square. It means once you are able to relate expectation and the variance by constant factor, you can do the whole old paradigm as before and get your estimate in the log n time. But so AMS algorithm works, at least for F2 estimates, in this richer model where you're allowed to have updates which are negative, positive. So this not only works on, let's say, like positive frequency, but this works on this x in Rn, and this leads to what is called introduction to sketching, which I will not talk about today, but I will discuss in the next lecture a bit more detail about what sketching is. Okay, but actually what AMS algorithm is all about sketching. It is all about dimension reduction. So 2 things. What is this? Like, this will lead us to what is called linear sketching, this will lead us to what is, we will connect this to Johnson-Lindström lemma. Okay, so this is related to dimension reduction, right? So basically what is happening is that you are basically, ultimately what you are happening is that you have this n length vector and you are reducing to some 1 over epsilon square log n length vector and trying to keep only those kind of things. Okay, so these F2 and Johnson-Lindström lemma, they are related to each other in certain way, and we will see these things in the coming weeks. Okay, so next time we will introduce linear sketching and do some heavy hitters and all those kind of things. Once we are done with this, we will do subspace embeddings and Johnson-Lindström lemma. But the starting point is this amazing F2 sketch of Alon, Matthias, and Szegedy, which actually not only works for frequency moments, but it actually works for any x in Rn. So I think this is the right moment to, I think, leave or stop the lecture for today's lecture.